Hello, and thanks for listening. I'm Reed from Grief Refuge, and I want to talk about something that's a little bit undervalued, yet very important for helping heal with grief. They're called rituals. And today I'm going to share some stories and some thoughts about how rituals help with our grief. We'll start with a story. There's a woman who lives across the street from me. She recently lost her husband to cancer. I used to see them walk down the street together. Her, a tiny figure with long white hair. Him, a shaved head, and what looked like a disease of the spine because he slumped forward so greatly. But now when I see her, she's all alone. She walks daily, and she moves swiftly, with strength and direction. She usually wears a hat and sunglasses, and she kind of looks like a celebrity who's trying to keep their identity hidden. But the other day I watched her walk down the driveway where it meets the street to retrieve her morning paper. It was lunchtime and I was sitting outside my lawn chair having my ever-predictable pandemic lunch. I noticed her and I looked at her with intention and strong energy in the hopes that she would look back so I could say hello. My family has lived in our house for over 3 years. The neighbor across the street, I would bet she's lived there probably at least 30 years. But you see, we've never spoken before. We just haven't encountered that icebreaker yet. But when I see her return from her walks, I do yearn for that neighborly connection, hoping that one day soon she'll know I'm available should she ever need help with her grief or anything else. She's a widow now, and although I know nothing about her personal life other than her husband passing a couple months ago, I do in some sense care about her. She is part of my community. She's not young, and her life has drastically changed. She may be in pain and feeling very alone, and I, being a grief caregiver, I know how to help. The other day, my wife and I were relaxing on our living room sofa, just unwinding from the day and spending some time with one another. Day was turning into night, and it was that moment of dusk when the sky was almost purple, when I noticed something unusual from the corner of my eye. Our living room window has a direct view of the house across the street. Sometimes I just stare out the window, with my gaze set above the neighbor's house and focused on the trees in her backyard. There's a beautiful oak that's big and bushy, as well as a very tall palm that always sways when it's windy. That night I caught sight of a silhouette walking on the roof of the house across the street. It was so strange that my inner alarm rang and a leisurely evening had turned into a neighborhood night watch. Was someone trying to break in, I thought? And if so, were they trying to go through a sunlight? I had no idea what was going on. I told my wife what I saw, and we ended up watching. We watched the widow across the street climb up onto her roof, sit down right on the peak, and just stare off into space as that night grew more dark. She stayed up there for maybe 15 to 20 minutes and then climbed back down. I tell you, it was kind of a weird thing to see someone on top of a roof at night. I've never seen that before. Well, there wasn't much mention of it with my wife and I until the very next day, at about the same time. There she was, taking her 20 steps to reach her perch and raise her gaze back up into the evening's atmosphere. After the third day in a row, I realized what she was doing. She was creating a new ritual. It was her unique way of grieving. And I'll admit, I found it adorable. I mean, how many 70-year-olds do you know who go sit on top of their roof at night in the dark? It's very courageous, unique, and quite charming. We all grieve in our own special way. Hers is partly by taking in a new setting, looking at something different and more natural. Her ritual helps her be her authentic self as she grieves the loss of her husband. Rituals are helpful ways to heal from a loss. They can also be powerful ways to express the emotions we feel during grief. Do you have a ritual that helps with your grief? Sometimes just doing something without thinking too much about it can really help. Rituals as simple as daily walks can make a big difference when feeling pained, stuck, or that low energy grief often causes. Rituals don't have to be big life-changing events, but sometimes it's assumed that they do. Maybe that's because rituals are often associated with unfamiliar environments, or the expectations of the results are so high. And maybe rituals can really stretch people out of their comfort zones. But a ritual can be as simple as lighting a candle at a certain time of night. And rituals can be very easy to start. For example, when the shelter-at-home orders were put in place, I started a ritual of morning runs and walks to a local nature preserve. My intention was to move my body, feel into whatever emotion was there, sweat, and spend time in a natural environment. For 5 days straight, I started my mornings that way. Something like this can be a good thing if it supports your healing process. Some rituals, whether very consciously intended or done with very little thought, are good for our mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical health. As we learn to manage our grief, we can find ourselves doing rituals to honor the person we lost. Many people end up doing things that they did when their loved one was still alive. Things such as singing a particular song, going to a favorite restaurant once a month, or a weekend getaway to a favorite out-of-town destination. Coming back to my neighbor, I've been so curious about what our ritual means to her. I love how she lifts her gaze up into the sky. The sky is so expansive and vast, and I wonder if it's like a metaphor for her expanding her relationship with her husband. I even wonder if she had a star named after him, and maybe she's talking to him, or maybe she's replaying fond memories in her mind. But if I ever talk to her, I doubt I'll ask about the ritual. The reason why is because she's so private. It makes me think of one thing my grandmother told me was that some things are better left unsaid. And in this case, I feel a truth in that. There's this sense of sacredness in her experience, and perhaps one of the best ways that I could support her is to honor her privacy. So maybe I won't ask her about her ritual, but I'm going to ask you, what rituals help you when you're grieving? Is there something you find helpful or meaningful to integrate the memories of someone close to you who has died? One of my friends just told me that she likes to make pancakes in the shape of animals to honor her deceased father. I learned that he cooked a lot for her and her siblings when they were young, and their father really enjoyed it, and so did they. He would make pancakes in the shapes of all different kinds of animals. She told me his signature animal was the cat. Well, on Father's Day, I got to witness my friend honor her father. She made pancakes in the shape of a cat, and it was really cute, and I had to take a photo of it. It's important to note that many rituals are shared and many are not. Some people really enjoy a hike in nature all by themselves. Some people may like family picnics in the honor of the loved one lost. I personally ride a Harley to honor my deceased stepfather. You see, he was a Harley rider, and when he passed, I inherited his bike. I now ride it to connect with him. It's my ritual to honor his memories, his life events, his personality characteristics, and also the hobbies and the things that he loved. My stepfather was also a woodworker, and fortunately, many of his grandchildren received furniture as gifts at some point in their lives. It brings me great joy to think that there are many times when a niece or nephew opens their dresser drawer and they think about Papa Warren. If you don't have a ritual right now, please don't feel like you should. I personally believe they can help, but everyone grieves differently. Not everyone will find a ritual as something that feels helpful. And if you're thinking that something's wrong with you because you don't have one, please let that thought go. Replace it with thoughts that are more kind and caring to yourself. Life is so complex, and what does or doesn't work now may change in the future. There may be a time in the future that a ritual will have more significance or meaning to you. But any time when you're grieving, how you feel now is what's most important. Please honor that for yourself. And if you do have a ritual for your grief, just know that it's probably more special than what you may be giving credit to. Keep doing it. It will continue to help your healing, and it will help make your grief more manageable. So, I want to close out by saying that grief rituals, they can help you feel more comforted. They can help you remember the loved one who has died. They can help you affirm the value of their life. They can also help process emotions associated with the death. If you're in a place of wanting some extra support with grieving the loss of your loved one, I offer authentic ways of helping you heal and making meaning of your loss. Please visit griefrefuge.com to learn more. Thanks for listening and take care.